Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live, and I am your host, Dr. RC. Our featured guest today is Colonel Rich Graham of the U.S. Air Force, retired, famous for piloting the SR-71, the Blackbird, and the number to call is 469-307-1642. And we were discussing about the AstroTrack, and this is a GPS in the 70s, or kind of, they used. And Rich, welcome back to our last segment.
Good to be back.
All right, now AstroTrack looks like what you were mentioning towards the end of the last segment. It is very similar to the GPS. Instead of using the artificial satellites, it was using the real satellites, the real planets or stars. Correct?
Correct. We're using the stars.
Okay, and you said it locks on those stars. It's pretty much the same way, so it is much more accurate.
Yes, the Astro Tracker, when you pulled out of the hangar, when I became an instructor pilot in the SR, I had to work the Astro Tracker in our trainer aircraft. So once you pull out of the hangar, obviously when you're in a hangar, you're not going to lock onto any stars. So you turn it, warm it up, and when you pull out, I would say generally on a clear day, like we're today, within 30 seconds to maybe a minute of pulling out, it would lock onto 3 stars right away. Now, obviously, if you had a complete overcast, it couldn't do that. You'd have to wait till you flew up on top of that, and then it would lock on. But generally, I was always impressed on the ground how quickly it locked onto 3 stars.
Pretty amazing, yeah. So the only problem with the Astro Tracker was if there is cloud or fog, then it won't be able to, because it's not getting the direct connection or direct signal from the stars.
That's correct. And we had an INS on board, inertial navigation system. That's what a lot of people use that as their primary, but that was our backup system. So when you didn't get a star lock on, we'd use the INS, the inertial navigation.
Can you tell us exactly what INS is?
Pardon?
What is INS? How does that work?
It's inertial navigation. It's just spinning gyros. Until GPS became commonplace, a lot of airlines and everything used INSs. There's ring laser gyro stabilized INS systems, but it's basically when you're standing still, you warm it up, and there's very accurate gyros that are spinning in 3 axes. And as you taxi on out, it takes care of all the movement of the airplane, and the gyros, they know your last known position, and they keep track of everything just by the inertial navigation system, they call it.
I see. Okay.
It didn't rely on anything outside the airplane. It's inertial. And it was fairly accurate for years, but eventually GPS became the real measure of merit for accuracy.
Okay. All right. Very good. You also wrote in your book. I would like to show your book to our video audience. There it is. There it goes, guys. Flying the SR-71 Blackbird. In the cockpit on a secret operational mission. And the book is available at Amazon.com, eBay, and also you can get the book, an autographed copy, from writing to Colonel Graham at Habu5, Habu, Habu5 at Verizon.net. All right, now the next question I have for you, which I was reading in your book, people ask you to take things up there to 80,000 feet and travel at 3.2 Mach. What kind of things people give you?
Well, say that one more time, Remy.
What kind of things people give you to take up there?
Well, every once in a while, when we were suiting up, if you suit up in a pressure suit, we'd have visitors come in. And sometimes visitors, I'd always ask them, is there anything you'd like me to take up to 80,000? And, like a trinket of some kind that you could say, ooh, this has been up to 80,000 feet at Mach 3, 22,000 miles an hour. So one day I was suiting up, and this husband and wife were there. And I asked them, I said, is there anything you'd like me to take up for you to 80,000 feet, like a little memento or something? She took off her wedding ring. I couldn't believe it. She took off her wedding ring off her finger, and she said, here, take this up. And her husband got real mad. I could see him getting irate. He said, no, you're not. So I gave it back to him and let them settle the argument. And finally, she won. She finally won. She said, no, I want my ring flown at 80,000 feet at Mach 3. So I put her ring in her wedding ring in one of my suit pockets, and we flew it, and they were there when we came back, and I gave it to her. So she was very happy, but I don't think he was happy about the whole thing.
Yeah, for any man, that'll be a ego bust. That's true. All right, now you were, suiting up for the travel, for the missions, and it's more like a space suit, right? So, how long do you go for 6, 8 hours? There is no toilet in the Blackbird, so what do you do if you have the natural physical urges to, go to the toilet?
Well,
What do you do?
well, prior to every meal, prior to every flight, we had to eat what's called a steak and egg meal, high protein, low residue, for obvious reasons on the residue.
Uh-huh.
But the if you had to, let's say you had to urinate in flight, we had a little collection device called a UCD, a urine collection device,
Mm-hmm.
and it was nothing more than a big, hard-sized rubber condom, if you will, that had a Velcro side to it. It would Velcro onto your long john cotton underwear,
Mm-hmm.
and if you had to go, you would just urinate into the tube, which went down a tube. It had an outside on-off switch that you could reap in your right about where your knee is. So you unzip that and open it up, and then the tubing then continued on down to your left leg pocket where there was a super absorbent sponge in there.
Okay.
And then when you wanted to go, you would just open up this valve. Well, actually, I did a little bit different. What I did, I would inflate my suit first. I would put, you can inflate your suit if you want. So I inflated it a lot. Then I'd open the valve up. And the reason I inflated my suit and then opened the valve, I'm looking for a cold draft flowing.
Right. Okay.
Once you feel a cold draft, you know everything's going in the right direction. If you don't feel the cold draft when you open up the opening,
Right.
then something's come undone somewhere. So once you feel the cold draft, everything's going to flow in the right direction down to the sponge. So that's why I always inflated my suit.
Yeah, you need to put that information on the pre-flight checklist. Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, um, the pre-flight procedures that I was reading through the book, that's pretty extensive, right? The pre-flight, yeah, the pre-flight procedures, the pre-flight checklist.
Well, it's a very extensive checklist, but every mission had two crews. You had the primary crew to fly the mission, and you always had a backup crew. The day before, both crews, both the pilot and the navigator, two of them, would show up and mission plan the day before. So if you showed up sick the next morning, let's say you had a cold or the flu or you sprained your ankle, the backup crew was ready to go ahead and take over the mission. So anywhere along the whole time you flew, for the whole 7 years that I flew the SR-71, you always fly with the same person in your back seat. And Don Emmons was my back seater. And we weren't allowed to mix and match crews. So if he got sick, let's say, I couldn't go to get another navigator and put him on my back seat. We had to cancel as a crew, and then the backup crew would come in and take over the mission. So we always flew together all the time.
I see. Okay. I see. Okay. Very good. Now, in the Discovery Channel, when they're talking about SR-71 Blackbird, they were saying that you have to, it leaks fuel so much, you have to refuel it immediately after takeoff. Tell us, is that true?
Yes, and that's the one TV channel. I called them, I talked to them, but they won't change it, obviously, because it takes a big major change. But the narrator says that the SR-71 leaks fuel so profusely it has to refuel right after takeoff. And nothing can be further from the truth. We don't have to refuel after takeoff. We only refuel after takeoff for one reason.
Uh-huh.
It's a little bit involved, but do you want me to go ahead and explain it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please.
Remember earlier I said the fuel is going to get up to 350 to 375 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
Because of that, as those fuel tanks, there's 6 main fuel tanks, as they burn down fuel, the volatility of the fumes and the temperature of the fuel, you're looking for a major explosion in those tanks because the skin temperature's up around the 500 degrees.
Right.
The fuel's already at 350 to 375, so the consequences of an explosion would be disastrous. And you're just asking for trouble. So what we had up in the nose wheel well, we had 3 liquid nitrogen dewars that contained liquid nitrogen. It was plumbed back to all 6 tanks, and now the gaseous nitrogen would fill up all that empty space as you burn down fuel. So how does one get a 100% nitrogen atmosphere in the tanks? The only way to do that is to refuel after takeoff. If you refuel after takeoff, the fuel that comes in, that air that's in all those tanks will go out through valves into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're full of gas and you get your full 80,000 pounds, those valves close, and then as you burn down fuel, guess what? It gets replaced. It gets replaced with 100% nitrogen above it the whole time.
Oh.
And that allows you, once you have a nitrogen atmosphere, we were allowed to exceed 2.6 Mach, which allows us to go to Mach 3. If we couldn't ever get a 100% nitrogen atmosphere, we were limited to 2.6 Mach because of the temperature and the volatility.
And the volatility and the presence of oxygen. Even the nitrogen, of course, is an inert gas and it's not combustible. Okay.
So that's why we were fueled after takeoff.
Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of the show. You are listening to Colonel Rich Graham, a U.S. Air Force retired pilot, famous for flying the SR-71. He has written 4 books. The first one is SR-71 Revealed, the Inside Story. The next one is the SR-71 Blackbird, Stories, Tales, and Legends. Then the current book that I showed you, and I'm going to show you again on the video here, that is the Flying the SR-71 Blackbird on a Secret Operational Mission. And the latest book is Complete Illustrated History of Blackbird, the world's highest and fastest airplane. The books are available at Amazon.com and also at eBay. And if you want an autographed copy, you can write to Colonel Graham at Habu, Habu, Habu5, number 5 at Verizon.net. Rich, it's been great. It's wonderful to talk to you, and we learned a lot. I hope you will come back and spend some more time with us in the near future.
We can do that anytime, Robbie. I look forward to flying with you again, and maybe check out your new helicopter too.
Oh, well, we will go tonight. All right, Richard, please stay on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our featured program, and I am your host, Dr. Orsi, and you are listening to Dallas Live. We will be right back.